Oh yeah, Mr.
What's
Boyd
going on, man?
Craven the third is in the house tonight, filling in the co-host seat. Mr. Craven, thank you so much for joining us again.
Not a problem. Glad you asked me.
So, for those of you who have never met my newly acquired friend from the interwebs, this is Boyd Craven the third. Do you throw the third? Is that a thing? Some of your stuff has the third, some of it doesn't.
Well, it gets confusing because, my dad and my grandpa are also named Boyd. So it depends.
Okay. So anyway,
I just, for brevity.
for
Boyd.
brevity, the third is one of our absolute favorite post-apoc authors, and we are very, very grateful for his friendship. He's a friend of the show and was on a couple of the early episodes talking about the first book series that we went through, Behind the Curve, The Farm. We're gonna peel back his brain on that here in a little while, because I'm not gonna have him on the show, and not least to get a status update on book 4. But maybe we can get an exclusive or something. I don't know. But anyway, one of my favorite minds in the world of preparedness. He comes from the old school, putting up for hard times kind of stuff. I am so appreciative of your take on things, sir. So thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to have some great talks.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I figured after the first time I'd never hear from you again, but I wasn't too horrible, I guess.
No, we just been waiting for that fourth book, man. We were just like, man, we're going to have him back on. We're going to have him back on. And then, no. And you came on a couple of bunkers too, though. Like you've been into a couple of bunkers after that first show. Don't be playing like we weren't going to invite you back.
But, book 4 is really, everything has kind of changed in the world. And a lot of those books were kind of written just as things were happening or just before things were happening.
Right.
And I was kind of guessing on where things were going to go. Book 4 has taken me a little bit longer because the direction I wanted to go actually happened. So,
oh gosh, oh no, that's yeah.
No, I don't, so I'm kind of like going, okay, that stinks.
You posted that great Gene Wilder meme a while back, where when he's dressed up as Willy Wonka and he's just leaning, got that grin on his face, right? And he's like, doomsday preppers this week, right? I don't know if that was a couple weeks ago when Russia invaded Ukraine or what the story, when it was. I just noticed it again today when I was trying to get a picture of you for the post. So, which did you see the post that I tagged you in?
I turned off Facebook a while ago, just so I don't get pings in here.
Good man. That's good. That's awesome. I have to go through seasons like that too, so no judgment whatsoever. But basically, I grabbed that picture of you from Epcot, where it looks like, and I was like, Boyd's coming to us from his moon base, where he will be giving us play-by-play of the missile launches and impacts from high above. Right. So, and then I put a little subtext at the bottom that basically was like, this would be a lot funnier if it weren't kind of true.
Right. So, or about to be news.
About to be news. It's like when the Babylon Bee is prophetic, and it's like, dude, this isn't funny anymore, man.
It's like the Babylon Bee in South Park.
And the Simpsons, of course.
Yep.
The Simpsons is so accurate now that like it's nobody wants to talk about it because it's frightening, Mm-hmm. Now, I will say that somebody the other day set my mind at ease, and then I saw yet another string of things that Simpsons got right like 20 years ago about today. They were like, look, they just assume the worst of humanity, and they write from that perspective, and so it's pretty easy to like Nostradamus, like man's evil intent, right? And I was like, oh, that's true. That feels better. And then I watched a whole nother string of them, and I was like all spun up about it again.
Well, what do you think about Idiocracy, another Mike Judge film?
Dude, I'm telling you that Mike has got a time machine, man. He's got a time machine. And that was him trying to tell us that he has a time machine.
and it isn't the trying to no, sorry.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh,
I just was that a Doctor Who reference? Did you just drop a Doctor Who reference?
no, no, that was the very end of Idiocracy where they actually
Oh.
find the time machine
Okay, that's right.
in their interpretation without the full history,
Right.
talking about Nazi Germany, World War II, and the UN, and
There you go. There you go. That's right. That's right. Okay, I remember
yep.
now. Um, I mean, obviously, we've got some catching up to do. You and I, we have not had a chance, a proper chat in a while. So I interrupted
Indeed.
you. You were kind of finishing up I was trying to be funny, and then I derailed us. You were finishing us up on your update for book 4. I mean,
Oh,
are there any secret timelines? Is there anything? I mean, no pressure, brother. We're just excited when it
well,
happens.
I I kinda got stuck. Like I was saying, real life started happening just the way I was writing it in the book,
Right.
and it derails me a little bit, and I've had this story about Opus stuck in the back of my mind for a long time, and so I thought, "You know what? If I'm having a hard time writing this and every time I sit down at the keyboard and I really don't get a lot done, it's frustrating, it's depressing, I feel like the worst person in the entire world." And then I sit down and I start writing about Tina
Uh
and
huh.
Rick and
Uh huh.
Opus and Sarge and Ophelia, and I'm just like, "Happy place, happy place, happy place." And
Oh,
so,
I'll take it.
right
I'll
now,
take it.
I'm about halfway done with book 4 of The Farm,
Okay.
and I'm about 20% done on the next Opus book, maybe 30%.
Okay. Listen, if you're not gonna work on the farm,
Mhm.
I am thrilled to hear about another Opus book, because I think you and I had talked a while back, and it was kind of up in the air whether there was going to be another Opus book. Maybe the Opus was done,
Right.
and because you never really meant to write more than one Opus book, right? I mean, that was really just
Correct.
your healing process, like grieving through the loss of your dog, right? And some other stuff, and then, I mean, I certainly fell in love with it. So I'm just going to speak from all of our behalf. We fell in love with Opus, man. And then Ophelia comes in, and now you've got little snot gobblers running around that need to be protected. And I don't want to ruin too much, because if nobody has read the series, you've got to read it. You've got to read it. So
So in this book on Opus, I'm kinda going a different direction a little bit.
okay,
I'm calling it Search and Rescue
okay,
is the working title,
yeah,
and essentially, it's Rick going back up north for some much needed downtime.
okay.
After book 2 and book 3, he's dealing with some demons,
He's been pounded.
and
He's been pounded, man.
and for once, he doesn't wanna be behind the 8 ball, he wants to be the one who's helping people get out of the bad situation,
There you go.
which is kind of the theme of Search and Rescue. He kinda gets he catches up with some old friends and some old frenemies, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna say Martin and Byrne, and, you know
Nice.
and they all kinda try to do something really cool, and they kinda all get swept up into this big search and rescue mission that
Okay.
involves some scouts that have gotten turned around, and, things don't have to go terribly, horribly wrong, but a lot of the foundation that I kinda put into the first 2 books, 3 books
Mm-hmm.
of the Opus series, kinda the common sense, um, don't lose your head, improvise, iterate if you don't have the proper tools, and, just keep your head on straight, and it's
Right.
kind of a book of healing, um,
Yes.
and it kinda gets into a little bit of PTSD. I know the beginning's a little too dark. I'm gonna have my wife help me lighten that up a little bit, but it kinda goes through
Man,
some
I
of the
think
stuff that's happened,
they've
and
got some PTS, man. They've got some PTS. Like, there's no
Mhm.
escaping what they've been through. There's some
Well, Tina
trauma.
had it from the very beginning,
For sure she did. 100%.
which is why she got Opus,
Right.
um, but, now Rick is looking at this from the other side of the coin, and he's the one who's going, "I don't know how she functioned,
Right.
and I need to get better for my family."
Yeah.
And, they get
Yeah.
an option or an opportunity for Sarge to go get some finished training, and so Tina and Owen take some vacation time to go see her parents and get the finished training done, And Rick thought, well, I'm going back up to War Wagon. We're going to chill out and we're, you know, going to have a really calm, easy time. And it
Nice.
happens early on in the summer. So when things fall apart, it's not going to be, you know, Rambo style, you know, cutting canvas cloth to keep warm and
Nice.
pulling bullets apart to make fire, close wounds. It's going to be kind of common sense. And, you know, sometimes when people rely on technology, it doesn't always work right.
Buddy, man, I
So,
know that's
like I
right.
said, without getting too deep into it, that's kind of the
Hmm.
whole nutshell on that book. And, you know, find some healing. And I know I talked a lot more about Opus than I did the farm because right now that's what I'm writing.
That's okay. No, no, no. You gave us the update. You were like, "Hey, look, you've hit a stall. Like that's the update. I understand, and I
Yep.
am thrilled, thrilled for." So the book series starts with One Man's Opus. For those of you who
Yep.
have not read the series, you should absolutely pick it up. I mean, it's another one. Um, uh, 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 Pierce reads it, right? He
Mhm.
is yeah, okay. So he reads it. So one of my absolute favorite readers reads the audiobook. So if you're down with audiobooks, you should 100% grab it. Um, is there a better place to get audiobooks from you than Audible? Like, are you an exclusive Audible guy? Like, is that where you're at?
Well, it's Audible, Amazon, and iTunes.
Okay. So let me ask you a
So
personal question without sharing any
sure.
numbers. Which one of those pays you more?
Uh, I think if people go through Audible directly, I think I get a little bit more, but
Okay.
it's all relatively the
Okay.
same. You know what I mean? It all comes
Okay.
through one dashboard.
All right. Well, I was just curious because I mean, like, there's a there's a lot of Boyd Craven the third books in this thing right here. I am a fan. But I will say I'm thrilled, man. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to get back into that. So two things. I'm a Florida boy, so I was super down. I'm super down with the hurricane and the craziness and all that stuff. That we won't again. I don't want to mess it up for other people who haven't read the book series too much. Thought that was really really great, and I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna volunteer my services, just like free of charge for just a little bit of insight. I've been on some crazy search and rescues. I've served search and rescue. I've done EMS for search and rescue. So if you need to bounce any ideas, like you need to be like, hey, what's it like when a deputy throws a handful of bones in your face because he's frustrated? I will be able to unpack that for you. I will be able to unpack that for you. And I'm not sad
Yep.
about talking about that on the internet right now because that deputy is no longer with us. He lived a long and crotchety life and he met his end peacefully. But he's not here anymore. So I can tell the story about how when a deputy lost his mind and threw a handful of bones in my face because he was upset. So if you need to talk about like grid searches and like how they go down and command and control, I'm here for you, buddy. If you need to bounce ideas off, I'm down with the search and rescue stuff.
Sweet.
Okay, so that's the good stuff. We got that. We'll get that out of the way. You know, the folks come to this show to talk about preparedness. We want to talk about those kinds of things. In fact, we've almost completely abandoned. We never even got to book 5 and What's Left of My World because by the time we got to book 5, we were asking what's left of our world, right? You know, and so we haven't even unpacked that last book in the series we were doing after yours, because we have literally just started discussing current events and our responses to current events. Okay, so
Right.
I'll just say this, and feel free to use a cheat sheet, whatever you need. What headlines today are like sparking interest, worrying you? Uh, um, yeah, Meg says search and rescue can be stressful. Meg's one of our Patreon members, and she's a family member of mine. So, my wife's really, but she's a SAR volunteer. I think she's a posse member for her county. So yeah, what headlines are you seeing? What's ringing out? What's showing up for you right now?
So are we talking world stage or political?
Whatever you want to talk about, man. What is
So the
sparking your
really
interest?
So the really funny, interesting things,
Okay.
I'll go through those real quick.
Sure.
CNN is eating itself.
It's
Chris
almost entertaining.
Cuomo, right? For the first time, it's entertaining. Like for the very first time.
Right.
Um, Chris Cuomo is suing them. He's naming names, giving examples, and he's going for so much money that they're going to get depositions, which go on the public record.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
Yep.
It's going to be hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, all the news organizations that ignored the Hunter Biden laptop and his ties to Ukraine and China and Russia and all of this dark money well, I'm not gonna say dark money, but all this money that came into his firm from oligarchs in some of the most corrupt nations in the entire world.
Yep.
Okay, and then on the political side, or on the war side with Ukraine, um, watching civilians being targeted by the Russians.
Yep.
Those are the ones that really kinda tug at the heartstrings.
Man, no kidding. Let's get to the Russians targeting civilians in a minute, because I think that there's some really big and there's some pretty solid headlines happening today, and I have a little bit of news that might interest some of our viewers as far as that goes. But absolutely, CNN is one of the most intriguing scenarios that I have seen boil out. It is like watching a global episode of Jerry Springer, for me.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it is so crazy because I have had less than zero. I don't know. Do you watch any Breaking Points, Crystal and Sager? No. So I find them to be some of the most balanced news out there, commentary. It's on YouTube, or you can get their app, whatever. It's a left right show where they actually respect each other and they'll disagree without like eviscerating one another. And I think their theme line is like, what if we hated each other less and hated the political elite more?
Mhm.
And I think, so I don't always agree with either of them, but they seem to be fairly accurate. They seem to, they come with multiple sources and stuff. So they've just been ripping, and they've gotten some really big interviews. They've gotten Rogan, and they've gotten a few people. Well, this week they talked to Jon Stewart, and and it was so sad because as like we say, almost comical as it is to watch CNN devour himself, Jon Stewart came on, and I have some respect for Jon. I mean, Jon just got mentioned I mean, at least Jon's passion got mentioned in a State of the Union. Finally, got a president to talk about burn pits and the effect on vets and stuff like that. I'll give Uncle Touchy one credit. He did one good thing there in that speech. Anyway,
Uncle Touchy or the Big Whiff?
yes
Or
and
is that
yes. Yes and yes. Uncle Sniffy, Uncle Tuffy, whatever. But he got on and he just like ripped on Fox News and talking about how and hey, I've got no deep love for Fox News, but he's like, oh, they're just an organ of the Republican Party and all these different things, and just had nothing to say. And he basically his every time they kind of pushed back and they were like, well, yeah, but isn't CNN kind of the integer of that scenario? And he was like, no. They just need to hire better people, and make those people just need to make better choices, and everything will be fine. And you're just like, no, man. And the whole time, the Cuomo thing and the whole channel is just circling. I have a prediction. I threw it out a few weeks ago. I think Bloomberg's going to buy it. Combine Bloomberg News and CNN, rebrand completely, scrub the floor, and basically have the exact same thing with a new label on it. It's how
well,
every company gets out of trouble. They just rebrand or sell or something.
the new boss after Zucker, has definitely made sure they're not taking real big heavy pot shots at Fox anymore because it really backfired in their face. Because all of a sudden Fox is talking about how bad CNN sucks. And now they have their own hashtag, LOL CNN sucks, or CNN LOL.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
That's fantastic.
So it's been kind of a directive to quit taking pot shots at the biggest most watched news organization in the world.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I
It's a good
don't
time.
I think all the big news organizations really have a slant that I don't appreciate. I mean, some I like to watch because some of the color commentary in the nighttime is hilarious.
Right.
But but I don't get all my news sources from just them, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yeah. No, exactly right. You know, it's like we actually have to read once in a while too. So okay, so that was so your first thing you brought up was CNN. What was there was one between that and and Russia. What was the other one you brought up?
Man, what did I say?
I'm good at this. Check out my
I
interview skills. I'm
I'm
ripping on CNN. I got a notepad in front of me. I can actually, click my pen and start writing. No, so then we can kind of like I like because this is the Prepped Pastors podcast, right? I like the biblical model. I like the Jerusalem, Judea, ends of the earth model, right? So that's a Jesus thing.
Mhm.
So there you go. For those of you watching, you were tuning in just for one Jesus thing. That was your Jesus thing right there. And so anyway, I like the kind of the local, the national, and then the bigger version of things, and we'll get to global stuff too. So, I did notice if we're going to talk just like national politics stuff, did you notice all of the red team? Let's just call them the red team. And a lot of the red team voted for a bunch of gun control stuff that they stuffed into a 2,700 page bill for that they called Ukraine relief.
Right. Which, I mean, the Second Amendment's pretty clear, shall not be infringed.
Shall not be infringed. Yeah. And
I
yet,
mean,
and
4
yet,
words. And is it Marbury versus Madison that kinda brought about if the legislation is so horrible, it's unconstitutional? I might
right.
have the wrong one up there.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the names. I've heard of it before. Yes. I think you might be right. But yeah, it's just been bananas. I mean, it's just been absolutely just insatiably out of control. So,
Well, and remember, New York State didn't want that lawsuit to go to the Supreme Court, and it's fixing to.
right.
They tried to drop it and then just say, "No, it's moot now," and they said, "No, we keep getting this and you keep pulling it back, and we're gonna hear this at some point."
Yeah.
Well, now we've got a retirement getting ready to happen. Are they actually gonna hear it right now, or are they gonna wait?
I don't know. I don't
Because
know.
if they don't get to it until after November, then, they're not gonna get a new seat until 2024.
I was told from a pretty decent source that they were going to hear it in June.
Okay.
So, I mean, I hope they sure hear it. I mean, it could reset stuff. I mean, all over the place. New York, New Jersey, Hawaii would all take gigantic black eyes.
Mhm.
There's going to be you guys might take a little bit of a black eye up in Michigan.
I
And
was gonna say, actually, other than the fact we have to register everything and have a CPL instead of constitutional carry, we're actually pretty good up here.
that's true. I guess that's true. You guys tried to do a constitutional carry like last year or something, and it just got obliterated.
Well, and
And your governor
despite
would
this
never have
being a
anything to do
mostly
with it.
blue state in Michigan, it's also got a big gun culture due to the hunting that, happens here every year.
Yeah.
Uh, I
Yep.
mean, there's as many Michigan hunters going out hunting deer in November as we have in the active military.
That's true,
So,
man. You Michiganders, you guys take your deer hunting a serious up there.
right.
But you guys know how to raise a whitetail though too. Like you could feed a family with y'all's whitetails. I've seen y'all's white. In fact, as a matter of fact, what do I need to do to get an invitation? Because I need to come up and shoot a Michigan whitetail.
I mean, they get pretty big.
Are you are you friends with
I
are you friends with Uncle Ted? I mean, he's got some land up there that maybe he'd let me hunt.
he's southwest of me by a couple hours.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't And I don't think he lives in Michigan much anymore. I think he's out west.
No, I think he's in Michigan for cold whitetail hunting, and then he goes back home again.
I was gonna say he's got a big compound in Jackson, so
So there was that. That was my political news. Like I was just like, I was sick to my guts. The other political news that we're going to get to now as we transition over to Russia, I really want to get your take on Russia. I want to get your take on the propaganda and the misinformation. We're going to have to maybe be a little bit careful because we will get banned off the Book of Suck and the YouTubes if we go too hard in the paint for truth. But which, by the way, mentioning the Hunter laptop. Oh, that was the middle piece, wasn't it?
that was the middle one.
That was
Yeah,
the middle piece.
yeah.
Okay, we got to do that. We got to go back to that now. Mentioning the Hunter laptop, the Biden laptop, a year ago got you banned from these platforms,
Right.
for spreading misinformation, and now, golly gee willikers, it's true.
Mhm.
Oh, tell me, what do you think, man? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the media was in collusion with the DNC and spiked the story
There it is.
because it was gonna hurt the guy they propped up.
There it is.
And not to be too indelicate, but if he can't tie his own shoes
Right.
or walk out to an interview and not say I crap or I wipe my own butt,
Yeah, man.
you know what I mean? He's got a list of people he'll take questions from.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. And
and
it's just sad.
who's really pulling those strings?
I'd
So
love to know. I'd love to know because
it
I'd love to
and I
punch them
kinda
in the
think
teeth.
it kinda goes along with big tech
Yep,
and the mainstream media that spike stories
yep,
that don't promote their guy or their girl,
absolutely.
period. I think there's a massive amount of collusion going on, and I would love to see the favorite suck book, suddenly lose their protected status and become a publisher instead of, you know what I mean?
Yes.
If they truly want to, same thing with YouTube. If they truly want to filter content, then they need to be a publisher.
Mhm.
But that also means they lose their protections. If they're truly going to be the authority on this is true, this is not true, then there has to be accountability and they have to be responsible for their actions. Um,
Yes.
which most news organizations, I know it's pretty loose, but indirectly, they have to be responsible. I mean, look at Nicholas Sandman.
Right.
You know,
Well,
he did
and
what and he might have
Kilo
only
Romeo,
gotten
Kilo Romeo is going to win some money.
Mhm.
He's not going to win any money from Biden. I think he's going to go after Biden, but I think Biden as an individual is protected by the First Amendment. But I'm sorry, I tried to sneak a snack, and my wife bought me some jerky, and it is
Yeah.
very hot. It caught me right in the back of my throat.
A
So
little
sorry if
spicy?
I'm
Um,
having a little bit of a freak out right now. So, but no, I mean, I think that I mean, I look at Sandman, and I look at what is going to happen for Rittenhouse, and if you notice, the Sandman thing happened pretty fast. Like it was like
well, and
it
it
was
has
quick.
to make me wonder how much he actually got. Did he get a token go away thing?
No, it was
I
big.
don't think he did. I don't think he did, but it's all under an NDA.
Yeah,
But all the hints I hear from people are saying he didn't get
massive.
as much as he wanted, but he got enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I don't
this
think he
kid is
got what he
never
went
gonna miss
after
a
he went out for like 900 million or
200.
something. I mean, like it was like a bit like it was knocking on the door of $1 billion, right? You know what I mean? Like and we all knew that wasn't going to happen. But man, if he even got half of that, and then he would have gotten probably what
Well,
40% after he paid his
I
lawyers.
think he sued CNN for 250 million, and
Oh,
then he
that's right.
sued and then it was like 4 or 5 different places, so it was over $1 billion with his first set of
That's
lawsuits,
right.
but
That's right.
he
Yeah.
settled with CNN and 1 or 2 others
Well, and a
so
bunch
far.
of the other dominoes just began to fall, right? So
Right.
when CNN settled, everybody else just started writing and throwing checks.
And then, he reached out to, Kilo Romeo and said, "Hey, I know how it's like being on this side of the fence. When you're ready to talk, I'll help.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know that Kyle did he did a statement the other day. Was like, I'm going after everybody.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Well, I mean, is he ever gonna? Excuse me. Is he ever gonna have a normal job? Is he ever gonna be able to go to college? Is he ever gonna ever have a regular life? No. He's
No.
gonna be a target everywhere. That kid's got to get paid. And I still maintain he was an idiot. He broke the 3 S's, right? Don't go. He broke the rule of stupid. Don't go stupid places with stupid people at stupid times. I mean, it's kind of like I was listening to. I don't know. Do you ever listen to a guy named Bear Independent on YouTube? He's a solid dude. I like him.
Not much.
He's
Not much.
Theologically, he and I are a little bit different, but and so sometimes I get a little wrapped up in his different. But I like him a lot. In fact, I reached out and asked for a donation from him the other day. So I can't talk too much crap about him because if he happens to watch not that he would. But I like him a lot, and he makes great med kits, and I'll talk about why I need med kits in a little bit. He's got some interesting takes on all that as well. So that's why only reason I brought him up.
Well, there's another rule of 3 S's, but it's
the 3 S's.
not
That's
quite,
right.
but it's not quite the same as yours.
Okay.
Shoot, shovel, and shut up.
Yeah, that's the 3 S's. That's right. Rules
Okay,
of stupid, and the 3 S's. There you go.
Okay.
Those are
I was gonna
different.
say those are the 3 S's I know.
I'm mixing my metaphors. Or my.
No, I wasn't sure. I mean, everyone can have 3 S's.
That's true.
But
that's good. That's a good point.
That was the one I'm familiar with.
No, exactly. No, exactly right. So, so in regards, I mean, what do you think is going to come out of the Biden laptop, man? Like, what do you? I mean, do you think are we ever going to see an elite politician? Okay, so now we know that the dossier was total bogus. We know. A couple years down the road, after what some might call an election is over, all those things. Like, are we ever going to see an elite politician held accountable? Are they ever going to go not hang themselves?
No, because even with John Durham,
yeah,
they have Hillary cold for colluding with Russians to try to throw an election.
Right.
They have her lawyer, Kleinsmith, being indicted, but that's as high up as it's going to go because he's the fall guy. And he lied on a form, which is a process crime. And you know what I mean?
See, everybody, he was held accountable.
He's going to go to Club Fed. He's going to lose,
6 months.
His good security boy points. And, he'll probably go be a lawyer in private practice or go to a think tank somewhere. And you know what I mean?
Let's be honest. Martha Stewart.
They're going to reward him.
Martha Stewart paid more for what she did as an insider trader than he will for colluding with stacks of people. I mean, we're talking about collusion. There's staring in the face.
So I don't think anything's really going to happen with Hunter. They might bring it up again around election time this year, but after that, I think it's going to go away.
Well, it'll be moot. I mean, there's no way Biden's going to run. Right.
Well,
you mean midterms? They're going to use it as a crowbar during midterms.
Yeah, but look when it came out. They picked the perfect time to dump all this stuff. And again, I'm going to blame the mainstream media. They picked the perfect time to dump this out and say, "Oh, guess what? We were totally wrong, and maybe Uncle Joe and his son did do something improper in Ukraine and Russia and China and in this country and that country. But guess what? We've got this big war in Ukraine, and you can't turn a channel without getting an update."
Isn't it a little bit reminiscent? Isn't it just a little bit reminiscent? I mean, like, you and I are old enough to remember, to hearken back to days of yore when there was this young, fair-skinned lady named Monica, right? And there were some cigars. Anyway, I don't remember the whole story. Story. I know that she needed to get her dry cleaning, something. I don't know. Anyway, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in Kosovo and like bombing the pudding out of, Serbs. Whatever. Right? I mean, it was like, look over there. Hey, everybody, look look over there. I mean, the only problem with this look over there is it feels like this look over there might drag us into World War III.
Here's I don't honestly know that we're gonna even get involved.
Yeah,
I know it sounds like we are. I mean, I know we're sending money and military gear over to them,
sure.
but if we get too deep in that war, what's to stop Ukraine or Russia from dumping all of our dirty laundry?
Did you see the
Seriously.
trash cans? I saw it one time. I never saw it again. There were about 50 metal trash cans outside of the Ukrainian capital being filled with green paper being burned.
Mhm.
I saw that one time as it was like becoming pretty evident that they were headed to Kiev, right? Or Kyiv, or I don't know. There's 40 different ways to pronounce it at this point. So they were headed to Kyiv. The Russians were headed to Kyiv, and I think they're there. They just haven't taken the city yet. It hasn't fallen yet, and we can talk about like battle scenarios in a second. But man, I saw all those things, and I'm like, man, they are
Well,
paying. They are paying with diligence for our weapons, man. Look, every one of those trash cans is worth about 15 javelin missiles. Like they're just like dumping people's stuff into that thing. It's money laundering capital of the world.
right. Well, and I think it's pretty bad that, the neutral Swiss are getting involved and saying, "Money's frozen." Like, what do you gotta do to piss off the most neutral country in the world
I didn't actually know that. Is that recent? When did that happen?
within the last week and a half?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Was that about the Swift banking? Was that the Swift banking thing?
That's kinda like an email system all the banks use to kinda
Okay.
coordinate sending money.
Okay.
Switzerland, Russia sanctions. Uh, yeah, EU sanctions against Russia. So, yeah, I wasn't flubbing that, but yeah, they're apparently doing more than they originally did.
Well, that's rad. That makes me happy to hear. I mean,
But
it doesn't. It doesn't.
here
Okay.
but here's the rub. Russia's got a pretty decent sized market for oil.
Yep.
Middle East has a decent market for oil, so
Yep.
do we. Okay. Right now, OPEC and Russia are starting to trade oil for the yuan, not the dollar.
And that is serious. Say that again for the
Oh,
people in the back, Mr. Craven.
well, they're not trading on the dollar anymore, they're trading on the yuan. So, I mean, when we went off the gold standard, we kinda adopted the petrodollar.
Right.
So, all of the money is kinda based on energy resources. And now, you know, one of the biggest well, 2 of the biggest oil producers in the world aren't really happy with us.
Right.
And we could be energy independent, but, green new bull
Yep.
malarkey.
Exactly.
And let's shut down the pipelines in Michigan that goes directly to one of our refineries and 2 of our power plants
Right.
just to get little local stuff. And just because, let's say, the big pipeline that was shut down when a new president took office, shale oil wasn't really giving us a ton of gasoline, right? But it's
Right.
all about speculation. It's all about market volatility or a volatile market. And what we're going to see is because they think energy is going to get more expensive, they're starting to hedge their bets higher and higher and higher, and the price of gas has gone up. I don't know where it
Oh.
is where you are, but it's almost $4 a gallon here for mid-grade or premium.
Oh, we're well over for it. I paid 4.18 a gallon for regular today.
Yeah.
And then I paid 5.28 a gallon so 2 Mondays ago.
Mhm.
5.28 for diesel. I bought 300 gallons
Yep.
and just stuck it away because some of the folks that I was, that I listened to saying diesel could be 7.50 by the summer.
Now, you know about treating it, right? The
Yeah.
algicide stuff?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
know a lot of people that put up gasoline the last time uh, barrels of oil went over $100, and they
Hmm.
sat in their shed for a year and a half, and they tried to put it in their car, and all of a sudden they're, replacing sending units and everything else, and
Oh yeah. Oh
it
yeah.
just was no good.
Well, so my thought and theory is I'll either sell and rebuy in 6 months, or I'll use it. So
Mhm.
it's one of those things. So I will, um, one of the two. So it won't, that particular fuel won't get older than 6 months. So
Yeah.
and
Well,
I know diesel definitely has a lot longer shelf life than
gasoline.
now Phil, if he runs one of those like uber fancy like new Fords. It doesn't like its diesel to be anything but fresh and awesome. So, but like the vehicles that I'm looking at, excavators and heavier trucks and things like that. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, and for me, I keep at least one of my vehicles fully ready to run on flex fuel or all ethanol.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
um, Michigan's, sells a ton of sugar beets. I know in the thumb area, I know where they process the sugar. I, there's
You got a still in your shop. I mean, are
well,
you out there brewing that fuel in the garage?
you can get a fuel alcohol permit from the ATF to make your own ethanol, and you have to denature it with a little bit of gasoline so it can't be drank,
Right.
and it's like a $45 application fee to get
Right.
it.
Oh, I'm going to do it, buddy. That's going to happen.
And I mean, some people would say it takes more resources to make it than it's actually worth, and they probably are right, but if you're talking about transportation
Right.
in a scenario where you can't get fuel, you know,
Yep. And I got a
it's always
flex
good to
fuel
have
truck, buddy.
options.
I got a flex fuel truck. It'll
Yep.
drive just fine. Now, I
Yep, I
wouldn't want
got
to
this.
run it on pure ethanol for ever. I wouldn't want to do it for years, but
Right,
for a minute anyway.
but in a pinch, yeah. That's why I got my super fancy, uh, minivan. That's my flex fuel car.
Nice. Are you a Detroit guy? Are you a Detroit? Are you a Motown dude up there? Being that's where your land is.
Well, are we talking sports or I'm more
Um,
local to Flint.
I'm talking about vehicles. Like, are you like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've probably had just about every brand out there except for the foreign vehicles. I've had Dodges and Fords and GM, Chrysler, which Chrysler, I guess, is now Daimler Chrysler. Um, but, my favorite's been the Dodges and
Nice,
like the Chevy Blazers and Trailblazers and stuff like that.
nice, good. Yeah,
If
I
I could
had.
find an old school Suburban
Oh,
right around late 70s, early 80s.
basically the military grade one, the one that was essentially a military vehicle. Is it that
Right.
like C2 motor? Is like you're talking about the diesel?
Well, if I could find one, but I don't think there's any left.
I got a guy. You want me to find you one?
Yeah, I'm mostly
You
looking for gasoline, if I find the right deal. Right
okay.
now, though, until I get the barn built, my wife would kill me if I pick something up.
I understand. I totally do.
But, I found this really, really cool Camaro for her one time. It had a blown motor, but the body was nice and it had that Veriflex paint job on it.
Ooh, yeah.
And I said, if I pulled this motor out and put it up on the stand and completely went through it top to bottom, and you give me, 6 months and a decent budget, and she goes, and it's mine. And I'm like, yep.
That's what I meant. That's what I was going to say next.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Does she still have it?
We uh we looked at it, we talked about it, we went back and someone had bought it. It was like
You
one
got
of
to
those
snatch
things.
those things up.
Yep. But my wife's a speed demon. I'm more the go slow and enjoy the ride.
Nice.
She's more the put the top down and let your hair blow back.
I don't know.
But
I'm not going to give away too much. I'm not going to give away too much because I've been hinting. I've been hinting for the last few weeks on the show. Here's your hint. I've decided. Here's the hint for the week. If you know,
okay.
don't say anything, and you can just give me a thumbs up that you know. But Cat 3116. I'm just gonna say that. If you know, you know. Up. Boyd's got the Googles. He's already Googling. So very excited. Very excited. It is on the way to me. It's coming.
That's awesome.
It's coming. I'm very excited. So but no, that's gonna be a pretty exciting addition to my stable, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna do some videos around it and like ultimate prepper bug out, kind of rig. Talk about, I'm leaning toward, because you inspired it. I didn't know somebody else inspired you, but I was leaning toward War Wagon as far as its name. I don't know, but we might have to do that. So.
Well, War Wagon comes from the Deathland Saga books.
Oh, that's right. You recommended those. I have not gotten into those.
They're an acquired taste. They were, I don't know, 80s, early 80s, 90s.
Okay.
But yeah, someone tricked out a motorhome, and that was their mobile merchant vehicle.
That's the way to go. I like it. Okay. Russia.
But
bombing.
if we can afford the oil because of what's going on in Russia,
right,
then we can get gasoline or diesel fuel, which brings us back to Russia.
Which will inevitably bring us around to China here in a few minutes as well. So, your prediction was that we don't get involved at all. Now in that context. So you led off with the story of Russia very blatantly bombing civilians. We've seen a hospital and a maternity hospital. We saw a theater with gigantic letters on the side, spray painted children. Now, balancing some of this with the propaganda machine. Okay, every time we have wanted to be drug into a war, okay. We have hyper publicized the atrocities that are happening that should justify why we should get up, leave our families, and go fight somewhere else. Now, a handful of times those were real, right? I mean, like World War II. I mean, when we're seeing millions upon millions of Jewish people being led to gas chambers. Okay. Like the world must engage. Okay. I get it, but there are a lot of instances, and I bet you have more in your brain than even I have in mine. I'm thinking World War I, sinking of the Lusitania. I'm thinking, and then Wilson gets up and, he had run on a platform of, we will not get in this war. We will not get in this war. He wins. The sinking of the Lusitania happens, where Germany had warned us and tried to take out like ads in our newspapers and our magazines going, do not get on the Lusitania. They are absolutely shipping cannon cotton, and they are shipping arms on that boat. And we squashed it. We paid off those newspapers and magazines to keep them from running the editorial that Germany had put in them, all up and down the eastern seaboard. And so then, when the Lusitania was sunk, with a third of the passengers it was able to carry, I wonder what else was on that boat, right? We threw our hands in the air and we were like, no! And then Wilson gets up and does his amazing, we are no longer citizens of America. We are citizens of the world, right? And that little creature pokes its head up over the horizon and shows us what it looked like for just a split second, right? And then
the theme song from Team America plays in the background.
Yes. I'm not allowed to sing that song. But I mean, even if I take the logo down. Yeah, you're not allowed to sing it either.
I'm not going to sing it. I'm just saying that's enough information for the listeners to
there you go.
look it up.
Yeah, exactly. And so So we jump into World One. We absolutely. I think we can make the case. Were there atrocities happening in Southeast Asia? Yes, there absolutely were atrocities happening, and at the time, the Japanese people were some of the most brutal people living on the planet at that moment.
And
But
in World War II, they had the highest body count, making the Germans look like they were beginners.
making them
And
look
that's
like
not
newbies.
and it's it's not widely taught.
No, and that we
But
sanctioned them into a first strike offensive. Like
and that's the only reason we got involved in World War II. We let
exactly.
all these other atrocities go on.
Yep.
So I'm using history as my guide unless they cross some imaginary line. I don't think we're gonna get involved. And
Well,
I
an American warplane in NATO airspace disappeared today. I don't know if you saw that headline or not.
not yet.
We'll see what happens.
Well, and they're talking about, if Poland is providing planes, send them to Germany for the Ukraine to pick up, that they will consider them acting as an enemy of Russia and
All
will
parties
take
involved.
matters, blah, 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 blah.
Right. Right. I just want to
So,
say
I mean,
I did see on the comical side of things. We got to keep things lighthearted every once in a while. I did see a spectacular
yep.
meme the other day when it was that Kermit the Frog, like kind of like trying to mind his own business, drinking his Lipton iced tea, right? And it was the one. If I was a better host, I'd have these memes. I'd pop them up on the screen. I don't think that far ahead. I'm way too ADD for that. But basically, he was like, he's looking at it and going, that moment you realize that Germany has never won a world war and you're on the same side as Germany,
Yep.
Like, oops. Uh-oh. We're in trouble.
Well,
No.
I've got a Kermit the Frog one I posted the other day that said, "So you're telling me you're gonna get a cargo ship and go to the Ukraine to pick up all this, abandoned Russian gear?" And it's like, "Shh, first of all, shut your mouth."
Shut your mouth. Man, I want to go get my paperwork. I want to take to the high seas. High seas, man. We have now re-legalized privateering.
Well, what doesn't make sense to me is Ukraine's begging for more MiG-29s. Aren't those Russian and like 30-year-old, 40-year-old airframes?
Yep. But it's what their pilots are trained on. That's what I talked to a
Yeah.
military expert. It's like that would be the fastest way for them to get in the air, not requiring any retraining of their pilots.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is sort of viable at that point, I guess. But I will say, I believe there are atrocities happening. I believe there are. I mean, I put out a prayer request the other day for a young couple, that were being rushed to the hospital in ambulance because she was in labor, and they are friends of a friend of mine. And, during the middle of an air raid and being bombed, there's awful things happening. Now, that being said, it does go back to the rules of stupid, right? Don't go stupid places with stupid people at stupid times. And I'm going to talk about the possibility of dramatically breaking the rules of stupid myself soon. But and I understand, and I think why I brought up Bear Independent earlier is he was like, look, they all had the opportunity to leave. Everyone who wanted to leave could have left before Zelensky closed the borders to fighting age males. Like, they all knew it was coming, and they chose to stay. And I'm going, well, yeah, I mean, I get it, but like, that's true. But is fighting for your home stupid? Is staying there going, no, this is mine? Like, I don't know.
Well, and so many people wanted to volunteer from within the Ukraine, and they started turning their own people away and saying, "We don't have enough guns and ammo." But they are taking volunteers who can bring their own equipment. You know, they've got Canada's top sniper.
Canada's top sniper?
Mhm.
Oh, I got to Google that business. That's exciting.
Oh, I can't remember his nickname right now. He's supposed to be ranked, I don't know, one of the best in the world.
Did you happen to do you follow the Warrior Poet Society, Warrior Poet Network?
Yeah,
John Lovell. Did you happen to watch the James Yeager video?
I've been head to the grindstone
Good
for a
man.
long time now.
I totally understand. So no shame when
Oh,
you have to say no.
and plus I got 2 little ones right now that are getting over, ear infections.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Give them our
No.
love. Well, so do you know who James Yeager is?
Mhm.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know who James Yeager is, he is, how am I going to say this lightly? Because I have thrown a lot of shade at Yeager in the past. He is abrasive. I was going to say obnoxious. That would be too disrespectful. He is abrasive. Very, very abrasive. But one of my shooting mentors is also very abrasive, Clint Smith, and a lot of people don't know how to take him. He says a lot of F words, and so Christians tend to not like Mr. Smith. But I will tell you that Clint Smith loves Jesus. He is just a Marine to his core, right? Um, and so he and James are tight. They're friends. So much so that they were both submitted for a Gundy Award. I don't know if you follow, if you've ever heard of those, but there's a YouTube / internet influencer award show for, shooters and gun tubers, if you will. And so Clint and James were both up for the same Gundy this year. And Clint did a big video announcement basically saying, look, thank you for the nomination. Really appreciate you. My friend James is supposed to win this award. I'm asking you, if you want to say thank you to me for the content that I make and the stuff that I teach, my thank you would be you will sufficiently thank me if you vote for my friend James. So they're tight, clearly, right? Lovell had James on this week, and James is currently, he believes that he's dying of ALS. And he says, and I say he believes because he has not received an official diagnosis yet. But the doctors have basically like, look, we can't write it on paper yet, but man, your dad died of ALS and you have all the same symptoms and we got to do a few more things, but man, you got ALS, right? And so the point that just almost crushed me, because he and Lovell were both in tears, and I've never seen Yeager be like vulnerable before. But he basically was like, look, I can either, he's like, I've spent my whole life training people to defend themselves. Like my whole career has been about training people how to use firearms, be students of weapons craft, and defend themselves. So I can either let my family deal with my 85-pound flesh-wrapped skeleton, or I can go somewhere and do something good with my last days. And he's like, I watched how my dad died. I don't want to die that way. So I'm going to Ukraine. I'm going to go kill Russians. I'm going to go fight.
Mhm.
And John's like, loves him. Yeager's who brought John Lovell into YouTube. He never would have gotten started in YouTube if it hadn't have been for Yeager. And so John's in tears, and he's like, dude, I want you to reconsider. Like, I want you to not do this, but I understand where you're coming from. But like, please don't. Like, have you thought that maybe, just maybe, that all of this is, like, at least a portion of this is propaganda, and like, maybe we're not getting the information? He's like, look, I'm just going to go train people how to defend themselves. Like, I'm just going to go keep doing what I've been doing. So supposedly he had his A and B bag packed and ready to rock. He was going. So I don't know. I haven't heard an update, but I reached out to my friends at Thunder Ranch. I was like, man, give James our love and let us know if there's anything we can do to support him. So he's got his family set up. I know his preps are hard. He's talked about him in the past, and he's like, in the giant, like, minimalist way, because he's not going to reveal anything. He's like, his preps are hard. He knows that his wife, his kids, and his grandkids are all handled for years. So I said, good for him, man. If that's the way he wants to go out, let him go out that way. But anyway, so tell me this. I said all of that to ask, like, on on a percentage, how much do you feel like we're getting is manipulative propaganda that is trying to drag us into a war, and how much of it is like legitimately, oh my goodness, somebody needs to do something?
30-70, 30% truth, 70% propaganda.
Okay. Okay. Do you feel like there's an agenda behind all of it that's like,
Always.
yeah. What does
Let
that
me
what does
ask
that
you
agenda
this.
look like
In the
to you?
in the last in the last, I don't know, 3 decades, how many countries have we gone to war with that have vast natural resources?
Right.
I'm just gonna ask that question.
Sure.
Like, is it all of them? Most of them?
I think it's all of them. I think it's all of them,
Right. I
except
think
for
it's
maybe
all of 'em.
Germany.
Now, we were talking about joking around about gun running and, selling arms, but I looked this up because I saw it in a Nicolas Cage movie, and I looked it up, and it's actually true. The biggest arms dealer in the entire world is the US government.
Absolutely.
So,
Is
that's
that a
part
Lord
of
of
my
War? Is
reason
that a
why I
Lord of
don't.
War reference? Lord of War?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that was a good movie.
But I looked it up, and everything I found, it was essentially true. We send arms not necessarily for money, but for influence, for power, to negotiate a better trade deal. Um,
Yep.
there's a number of reasons why we do it, but we have the most access. We have the manufacturing, we've got the best toys, and everyone wants to play in our playground.
Yep.
That's one of the many reasons why I don't think we're gonna get in on this one, but
Okay.
if we do, we're gonna profit from it on both sides.
Well, I mean, we're already financing both sides of the war, right? I mean, we're buying Russian oil and we're sending weapons to the Ukraine. I mean, that's I don't know why I keep saying the Ukraine. Ukraine. I will
Well,
say I'll say
because
this.
you probably grew up in the same time period I did where, our nuclear preparedness drills were crawl under a desk. They were remotely similar to how
Right.
we're supposed to prepare for tornadoes, but crawling under a desk will prevent radiation in the 1970s and '80s, right?
Well, you know, uh, um, and I bring you on for your preparedness mind. Obviously, you have not you don't claim to be a pastor, okay? Even though this is the Prep Pastors podcast, okay? But so I'm never gonna like throw you into like Bible quiz world, okay? But I'll just say this that Romans chapter 8 talks about futility and how man is bad at futility. Like we have got to create. I mean, like, why did we all just spend 2 years or a year and a half running around with face diapers on? Face
Mhm.
diapers that all you had to do is walk out on a cold day and see they did nothing, right? I mean, unless you're wearing like fitted, locked down N95 masks, they did nothing. Less than nothing when you factor in that everybody was wearing dirty masks all the time, right? So the fact that we just spent a year and a half wearing masks, like we suck at futility. Like the fact that there are times and seasons in our lives, can't do anything about it.
Right.
You just can't do anything about it. Whether it's battling an illness or battling a a superpower that's bent on uh, um, recollecting itself. I mean, sometimes we just can't do anything about it. And then every time we pretend like it's not futility, we make it worse.
I've got a saying I've used in a couple of my books, and I don't recall who the original author was, but not my circus, not my monkeys.
Not my circus, not my monkeys. Yeah, no, I'm
And
with you,
that might
man.
even be a Toy Story reference for all I know. But, that kinda stuck with me. And another analogy that,
I want it
I
to be
hear a
I
lot
want it to be a Toy Story reference. That would be great.
and another analogy I hear a lot is just because we've got the biggest bat doesn't mean we gotta swing at every pitch.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
So, That's on a personal level, I think everyone who would knowingly bomb a maternity ward hospital or a theater full of refugees, they should die really horribly.
I
Um,
Man, I'm with you.
like, I think, the you know, they should be visited by the plagues and, flee of a thousand camels and
All that.
all the other fun, amusing stuff. I
Right.
think those are really bad guys,
Yeah.
but as a nation, as a country, I don't know. I'm kinda torn on that
Yeah.
because if you look at the history between both countries, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? Now, as an American, we're always gonna say Russia's automatically the bad guy, but what if there's no good guy?
Or what if
There's
we painted them
what if
into the
there's
corner of
one
being the
less
bad
bad
guy?
or what if, well, and that very well could be, because like I said, as an American, I'm kinda programmed to like Russia's the bad guy.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but what if it's different? It's not black and white, it's all shades of gray. What if there's one guy that's a little less worse than the other? But I will say Russia went into another country with tanks and artillery and
Right.
planes and bombs and missiles, and
Right.
so right now they're but I don't know if you saw the report, but they're gonna run out of their supply lines are gonna dry up in about a week.
So, okay, that's where we don't
This is
know like what's
this is
propaganda
where
and
we get
what's
into
not.
the China talk, right?
That's where we get into the China talk, and we're going to turn that corner here in just a second. I think that, the poke the bear analogy is too easy because Russia, the bear. I'm just going to use the crazy tourists that go to Yellowstone, okay,
Mhm.
and they get out of their car and they're going to take a picture with the buffalo,
Right.
and every year somebody gets trampled to death by a by a by an American bison. Okay, we know they're not really buffalo; they're American bison, right? But the common colloquialism is buffalo, so we'll call them buffalo. All right, here comes the tourists, and they just get closer, and they get closer, and they get closer because they want to get that great selfie.
Yep,
Or
it's going on
dad's got the
Instagram.
camera. Yep, it's gonna go on super good Instagram flex, right? We're gonna get a picture with this big bull buffalo. And you get closer and you get closer and you get closer. And then somebody like loses their mind and demands that buffalo be put down because it trampled that family into bloody pudding. Right?
Yep.
And you go, well, wait a second. We posted signs says don't get out of your car. We posted signs and videos, copious amounts. You signed a document when you entered in the park that you would not disturb the wildlife. All of this, there were so many things that said you wouldn't do this. So we're not going to euthanize an animal because you're a dum-dum, right? Except a lot of times, sometimes they do. They're like, well, we put that animal, that was a bad animal. No, that animal was what that animal always told you it would be. So then you look at Russia, and I'm not trying to play Putin. I'm not a Putin advocate. I think he is a maniacal, evil bastard. And I can say that
I agree.
as a pastor. Okay. But we signed a treaty. We said we would not expand NATO. We said, here's the line in the sand. NATO will go this far. Will not go any further. We said, all this stuff. And then we start collecting the Baltics and Romania. And we start, all these different things. And we encroach and we encroach and we encroach and we encroach. And are we supposed to be surprised when the buffalo stomps the living dog snot out of the person standing closest to it?
Which kind of brings me to the revolution of dignity and why Russia wanted to go after Crimea, and then the other two states I can't pronounce the names of.
Unpack it. Let's do it. The Dengos
Dun
and
Yep.
the Dungarees. I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
That's
I was gonna
disrespectful.
say,
Those
I
are
can't
people
even
that live there. I'm sorry. I should know.
I know, but I can't pronounce it.
I can't either.
I think I might need a drink if I'm gonna try to pronounce that.
It's cool.
But it kinda gives context on perhaps what their motivations were to invade Ukraine. I'm not saying I agree with them,
No.
but
Well,
knowing
unpack that.
context.
Unpack that scenario.
Okay, so
Revolution,
back in
revolution of morality. Is that what you call it?
Revolution of Dignity is what they're
Oh, sorry.
calling the coup back in 2013, 2014.
Okay.
But essentially, Yukановich was the people wanted them to join the EU, and he wanted closer ties with Russia. So he essentially went with Russia, and the people really didn't like that. So massive protests, police officers get involved, try to put down the protests. 100 protesters were killed.
Right.
So protesters started going after police. It got so bad in Kiev that, Yukановich fled the country.
Right.
Uh, Let me see if I got the number here. Uh, so their former is it parliament? Yeah, Ukrainian parliament voted to remove him 328 to 0 out of the 450 people.
Right.
So, out of the people that didn't vote, they were either not there in hiding or they abstained from voting. But they've
Right.
got a pretty huge majority to remove him and form a new government. And that's what they did. And Russia has always held the belief that that was an American plot to overthrow a Soviet sympathizer that was duly elected, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Right.
But
Okay.
that kind of gets into Crimea, Don Donetsk, and
Donbass. I don't know.
yeah, and Luhansk, Donbass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Donbass. That's it. There you go. You got it.
Well, there's it looks so the spelling on one of the breakaway states is like Donetsk, Donetsk,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then Donbass is another one. But it kind of gives a little context on what happened and why they're back in the news again.
Right.
But and I mean that was essentially a civil war over in the Ukraine, and not everyone in a civil war is going to be the best people they can be.
Yeah.
Which is probably why Putin said, well, they're killing ethnic Russians over there because they probably did. It was a civil war. It was ugly.
And and then because they probably did. You're right. But then you also got to look at like the crazy, like multi-layered propaganda. There is that he was paying Russians to illegally immigrate into those regions so that he could
Right.
start communities and take over communities. Um, I'm, I was just like, you got to be kidding me, man. Like, I mean, this is bananas, right? And so it's like, so that then later on, years later, he could go, hey, look at all these ethnic Russians that, got kicked around. We're going to go rescue them.
Right. I think it's
bananas.
feasible. I mean, when the Berlin Wall fell, Putin was what, a KGB agent in Dresden in East Germany at the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
So I mean, he was right on the front lines as his country fell apart.
Yeah.
He was
That's
there
true.
when the wall came down. I mean, he's one of the old school cold warriors that's left from another age. So
Right.
I don't try to understand evil. I just look at it and I know I don't want to be on that side.
I totally agree. 100%. And you say that, and I say that, and I 100% affirm that. And then you also you look at Zelensky, who, British Parliament standing up, giving him a standing ovation. Our Congress is standing up, giving him a standing ovation. It's like, dude, man, shut down 2 television stations that were opposed to him, saying, giving bad news about him as a person. And he's, absolutely furthered the state-sponsored money laundering that's happened worldwide. I mean, like, it's not like he's a good dude too. I just think he's not a maniacal bastard. I mean, so it's a little bit like elections in the United States. Like, you got to pick the bowl of poop that stinks the least, according to Chris Rock, you know,
Right.
and as far as that goes. And so let me pick your brain before we turn the corner to China, because we have to. I mean, especially after the headline that I saw today. Okay. So if let's assume you're right, we're just not going to get involved. Do you make that prediction based on you think that there's not going to be a real reason for us to get involved, or do you think we're going to actively turn our backs on the NATO alliance?
If if Russia goes into Poland, for example, then I'll say I'm probably wrong.
Okay.
But that's the only realistic scenario where I see us getting pulled in.
Is a violation of NATO that they call up Article 5?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would agree with you.
I think at that point we would have to. But you remember Obama's red line with Assad?
Mm-hmm.
Do not use chemical weapons.
Mm-hmm.
He used chemical weapons.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our red line or our lines in the sand really don't mean as much when, there's no things to back them up anymore. And I'm not going to blame any one president, but that's just one example.
Yeah, and I think that is a perfect time to turn the corner to China, because did you see the headline that Biden and Xi had a meeting today, and he basically was like, there will be consequences, China. He tried to muster all the like strength and like leadership machismo that the dude could possibly, like, of like a marshmallow had a baby with a hamster, right? And he tried to muster all of what he had, and he, he's sitting there conference calling, Xi, and goes, there will be consequences if China backs Russia. And it's like, dude, if I were China at that point, I would have been like, at the meeting right then, I'd be like, well, we're going to get involved right now. I mean, I would have. I mean, like, Biden's spineless. He's got nothing. Nobody's intimidated by him.
Well, and I think it's really interesting. We're 15 days into this war now, and Russia's already asking for help from another superpower. Like in 15 days, all their conscripts and half their equipment are like not really on board with any of this. So what are they going to do? Are they going to try to get, part of the billion-man army to march with them into Ukraine? I don't know that that'll happen. I think they're maybe looking for different ways of selling their energy, different markets to park their money.
Yeah.
Equipment. I mean, I don't know much about their industrial capabilities nowadays, but I know it was pretty much in tatters, when the USSR kind of fell apart. I know some things have definitely gotten better, but, China can provide, I hate to say it, some of the modern conveniences and weaponry and
that's right.
But will they? I don't know. And like
question.
You said, is it in their best interest? Because right now, if they go in and they back Russia, they're pretty much cutting themselves off the world market.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that's well, and honestly, I hate to say this, and I've said this earlier in earlier episodes, but I mean, the bottom line is if we aren't willing to admit that we are already an occupied nation,
Mm-hmm.
that we are 100% occupied by China, like our food industry alone, like all of the big meat packing facilities and meat processing facilities, all owned by China. Okay. So, but let's not even talk about food and what would happen to our supply chain if we really, really got bowed up against China. Okay. Cause somebody might come back with the argument and be like, well, we'll just take them back. We'll just take over the ownership. They're here. We're here, they're there. We'll just be like, you don't own this anymore. Bye. Okay.
Then we'd be like Venezuela.
Yeah, they would be like Venezuela. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody else screaming to nationalize the oil industry, and I'm like, Venezuela.
Yep.
And so but anyway, but right now, honest to goodness, if China, they don't have to EMPS. China could just go, no more medical supplies for you, no more medicine, no more
Rare earth metals that
no more rare earth metals, no more chips, no more IV hoses, no more IV bags, no more sanitizers, no more hospital supplies in any way, shape, or form. Good luck
Mhm.
getting grandma a knee replacement. Okay. My
Well,
my my stepmom needs a knee
anyway,
replacement next month. It's close to home. You need insulin, right? What I mean, like we got to get this stuff from China, man.
well, I think Mexico's economy would grow by leaps and bounds if China started leaving the economic global scene. I think we would prop up Mexico. I don't think Canada's got the population and the um,
They don't have the
enough
want to
areas.
work. They don't have the want to work, just like we don't. We don't have the want to work. We could bring back. Everybody cries about bringing manufacturing back to America. We don't have the want to work.
Right.
Everybody thinks Everybody thinks they're supposed to get $60 an hour. I mean, I literally, as I was rolling over here, I was reading a post where the lady was like, all of these jobs that are available right now, they're all like $30,000 a year jobs. Where are the $60,000 a year jobs? And somebody posted right below it, and this is in the community that I live in. And somebody was like, "Well, do you have the experience and education to warrant a $60,000 a year job?" She's like, "Well, I'm a CNA, and I have like 5 years of experience, and that's not." That's only about $34,000. And I'm like, the answer is no, you do not have $60,000 education and or experience.
Right.
You don't just get to, I mean, like my grandfather used to say, sorry, all you guys out there in internet land that think pastors are supposed to be like perfect and always never say bad words, right? Always never say, I am a professional communicator. Anyway, shit in one hand and want in the other,
Wishing.
and
Yep.
see which one fills up faster.
Yep.
You can want a $60,000 a year job all day long. Do it. Want it. If you're not willing to go get an education, if you're not willing to
Have you
put in
ever
the time
seen
to get the expertise.
those $15 an hour fast food union organizing efforts?
Oh,
So I wasn't in Michigan at the time, but I drove through one, and the normal, half the normal workers were out there, 15 an hour, raise our wages, you know what I mean?
right.
I'm driving from one part of the country to the other. I just want a sandwich, but I listen. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll listen to your spiel for 2 minutes and then, I'll go get, my Fatty McFatty burger and my Badonkadonk fries. And so I get through and I get done and I stop just outside the window and then I pulled up a little bit and the same lady walks up. She goes, "Is something wrong?" And I, opened this up and I said, "Does this look like $15 an hour to you?" And they'd completely gotten my order wrong. I ordered like a chicken sandwich
Right.
and it was like a fish. I'm like, "Seriously?"
Right.
Like, "You had one job,
You had one
$15 an
job.
hour. You failed."
Yep.
I don't eat fast food that much anymore, but
Well, it's everybody. Everybody wants to know why lumber's going through the ceiling. Well, it's because these states are forcing Lowe's and Home Depot to pay their people $15 an hour.
but here's the crazy thing. I've worked for both companies at different points in my life,
Okay.
and they will naturally pay you that much and more. I was making that back in the '90s.
That's a good point. That's a very good
Um,
point.
so I don't wanna take away from your point, but it takes hard work, time, and experience, and
Absolutely.
they will pay you what you're worth. I mean, I've got an uncle that worked there, and he, finally retired because, he'd been there so long and he was having a hard time getting around. He goes, "But where else am I gonna make this kinda money? I'm too old to really walk around and do this physical stuff, but I can do forms and I can tell you anything you wanna know about this and this and this, and they're not paying me because I can sling a bunch of weight anymore. They're paying me for my experience
There you go.
and my knowledge."
There you go. Yeah, we've got a wonderful dude at our local Home Depot named Warren. He spent his entire career as a plumber. Well, and he's like, I don't know, he's got to be knocking on the door of 80, you know,
Mhm.
and he's there every day. And I was in the plumbing section just talking with him because he's a Jesus guy. We like to talk about Jesus, you know, and so I'm just there talking to him, and Warren's like, you know, pulling those big frost-free hydrants out, off of the top rack while he's standing on the stairs, and I'm like, Warren, dude, can you call one of the children to like pull those down for you, man? Like, because and that's exactly right. They pay him for his experience. They pay him for the fact that he spent a lifetime plumbing. And as the codes changed and as the techniques evolved and all of the things, so you're retro modding or resto modding your house that was built in the 70s. Well, Warren knows how that place was plumbed and how to tap into it and how to bring it up to date. You know, I love the guy. And he's a Jesus guy. So I love to go in there and talk to Warren, you know. And then you've got the other kids that show up. They don't know their butt from a hole in the ground. And it's like they're just there to please get the measurement right on the sheet of plywood that I need you to rip for me.
Right.
Right? Like that's all I need you to do. All I need you to know how to do, the only experience level that I need out of you is that you can run a tape measure accurately. And I've gotten a lot of discount plywood. Let me just say it that way.
Yep.
You know?
Well, and it's like the free market. You're gonna get what you pay for, and in a way, you know, the market's going to reward people that go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily every company, but it doesn't mean that we should necessarily put, you know, like people say, a living wage.
Yeah.
Most people I know my age, when they, you know, graduated high school, moved in with their friends and their buddies.
Right.
Or they'd move in with one friend with 2 or 3 other people they didn't really know, and they'd all room and chip in on rent because
Absolutely.
starter jobs, when you have no experience, you know, they didn't pay a ton of money,
Yep.
and they weren't
That's
meant to raise a
absolutely
family
true.
on.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Now, scale of 1 to 10, 1, you know, 0 to 10, 0 being not likely at all, 10 being absolutely going to happen and it's going to be a shit show. What is China getting involved and where are they going to go?
I think it's 50-50, and if they get involved, I think it's gonna be equipment and financial.
Okay. No boots.
I don't know. I
Because
had
you
a
know
grandpa that
China
w
also wasn't involved in Vietnam, right? I mean, like there were no Chinese
well,
or Russian soldiers in Vietnam.
I was gonna say, my grandpa was in Korea
Okay,
during a huge chunk of that war,
mine too. Mine too.
and
Both
they
of my
had
grandpas.
they had, most of North Korea done and over with,
Yeah.
and then came the Chinese. And I don't know, China has a history of doing that. And maybe I'm being overly optimistic when I think we're not gonna get involved unless a red line is crossed, and even then, I'm hesitant because in the past, we don't really back that up anymore.
Right.
And if China does get involved, I don't know if it's gonna be boots on the ground, but I think it would be military equipment. And at this point, you know, Russia's not able to count on their ground forces for much. They're doing all the damage with missiles and their air support.
You know, it's interesting because I would have said that up until a day or two ago as well. But you know, it's funny because all of the footage that we're seeing in the lamestream media is, you know, it's like, oh, check out this Russian tank that's been decapitated, you know, and hey, if you hit a Russian, you know, what is it, T-72 or whatever, right here with a javelin missile, it'll dislodge this 15-ton turret and flip it over and set it over, and it's just like burned up tank, farmers stealing tanks with the tractors, and you know, all these different things, right? That's the footage that we're seeing. Except if you go and look at the active battle map, the red zones are just getting bigger.
Mhm.
It's like we keep seeing all this footage of, oh man, Russia's getting its butt handed to it. Oh man, oh, look at this stalled out convoy. Oh man, look at these things these vehicles were abandoned. And nobody's talking about the first wave of Russian soldiers were the conscripts. They were the ones that were forced to go. They never wanted to be there. They all thought they were going on an exercise.
They're cannon fodder.
They're
Useful
cannon
idiots.
fodder. That's like, hey, we're going to go, all those fancy weapons that the Ukrainians got from everybody? Let's let them use them up. Let's let them use them up on the children. Let's let them use them up on the easy, on the non-sophisticated weapons systems. And then when we loosen them up real good, with the missiles and the artillery and the airstrikes, then we can send in the real army.
I mean, that makes sense to me, but they're asking for help already. They're 2 weeks into a war, and they're asking. That's why I mean, this is so confusing and nothing really makes sense. And it's kind of hard for me to armchair it from over here, but just looking at the history on what we've done and what other countries have done, I don't know, man. I mean, China getting involved, I think it'd be a 50-50, but I don't know if it'd be boots on the ground this time.
Yeah. I don't know either. I mean, I was honestly asking you because I don't know.
Well, and if they cut us off, like you said, medical supplies, everything they now manufacture that we no longer do,
right,
they'd also be cutting their own throat. I mean, they've been manipulating currency for decades now. It's how they're staying competitive. But if they no longer have their biggest customer buying from them, who are they going to ship all that stuff to?
It's a good question.
So, I don't know. I had this crazy theory, and it was just like a story idea, and I realized it was kind of a parallel to the farm book on how to collapse an economy. And Russia seems to be doing that. And not just one economy, but the world economy.
Right.
And right now, Russia could just shut off the gas. And I mean, Europe right now is getting what, 60% or more of their energy from Russia?
Yeah.
If they really wanted to collapse the world market, all they'd have to do is invade a country and then start poking at another NATO country, get a response, and turn off the gas.
Well,
wait, yeah, that's almost happening.
That's almost happening. Well, and I mean, even Russia's, or I'm sorry, Germany, they canceled the certification of the Nord Stream 2. It's primed and it's ready to flow, and they were like, we're not going to buy any of that from you, and now there's talk of them shutting off Nord Stream 1. I mean, it will crush. I mean, it's so crazy because I mean, you think about why Ukraine and why now. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The largest nuclear power plant in all of Europe is in Ukraine. Right? They are supplying clean energy to a gigantic chunk of the European world. And if they can turn that plant off, that's why I think they had no trouble why we were getting footage of them bombing and bombarding that nuclear power plant, because then when they take it over, they can go, it's not safe, guys. We had to shut it down. Really sorry.
Right.
Oh, did you need some oil or natural gas? I mean, we have some of that stuff if you need some. Because Germany, Germany's the big one, shut down all of their nuclear power plants. They were like, oh, nuclears must be bad. We should shut these down.
Yeah. Well, I saw something where Russia actually reversed the flow to try to suck back all the gas through one of the pipelines. I don't know if that's legit, but that's, yeah. I mean, it's going to be real interesting what happens.
That's true. That is going to be very,
it was back when Obama, I believe, was in office, is when I think it was Angela Merkel. They were trying to get more and better deals for energy from Russia. Yeah. Hey, we're, trying to overlook what happened years and years ago. And I'm just thinking, when one country becomes reliant on another for everyday stuff,
Yep.
US and China, um,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
only bad things can happen when they don't always get along,
That's right.
and
Okay, I've got one of the great post APOC minds in the room. I gotta ask, how many books have you written that are EMP based?
uh, 20-ish?
Okay. 20 20 books. Now that's series levels, right? I mean, you're not 20 individual
Yeah, not
stories, but like,
individuals, no, they're all tied in.
so how many series?
So, I've got the World Burn series, I've got the Devil Dog trilogy,
Uh-huh.
Good Fences, Northern Lights, Rebel Radio, um
Rebel Radio. Is that not an Audible?
yeah, it's on Audible.
Man, thought I'd read them all. I got another
Uh,
series.
I've also touched on, um, coronal mass ejection,
Okay.
basically a big solar flare. That was the Blackout series.
Blackout series. Right, right, right. Did you ever actually disclose what that was? Whether that was a CMJ or an EMP?
It was a s yeah, it was a CME, but I don't
CME.
know if I actually laid it out in the book, but when they were seeing the northern lights down in Arkansas,
That's right. Yep, yep, yep. Okay. Cool, cool.
and they were like, "This is weird," and then how some things would work, but some things wouldn't because it was kinda line of sight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, I don't know if I explained it very well in the book because I like to do fog of war. The characters aren't gonna have all the information all the time.
Sure.
So, if you count those in there, I think I'm about 20-ish.
Okay. So 20-ish pieces. Can we say that you've spent a significant time of your writing career talking about EMP ish stuff, okay?
Mhm.
Uh um so thoughts on, does Russia bring the thunder? Does it bring the big smoking cinder block, or does it just EMP us into the Stone Age and let us devour ourselves?
Well,
If they did a first strike.
I'm pretty sure that would probably be their go-to. I know the EMP Commission has been updating, scenarios, but it's been a while since I've looked at a report. Um, but if a full EMP happened and things work the way they think it's gonna work, 90% of the country is gonna die in the first year, at
And
least.
guys, that's not an author's like fictional extravagant look at things. He's not. That's the EMP
No, that's
commission
not
speaking.
theory, that's the EMP
That's the
Commission's word
EMP
on it.
commission. Yep.
And then after that first year, you're gonna slowly lose people from lack of medical care, essentially getting tossed back into, the 18th century,
Yeah.
18th, 19th century. I mean, where I live right now, I could probably be okay, but the vast majority of people in Michigan, where I live, would have a very hard time staying warm enough to stay alive in the middle of winter that lasts for a stupid amount of time where I live,
Right.
you know? And
Well,
you're gonna get places like the American Southwest and, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, places that get so hot, people that have never been without air conditioning are gonna really struggle. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get used to it, but how many people are you gonna lose in the first year that
right.
have never had to deal with heat exhaustion, heat stroke?
Right.
Um,
Well,
do you
you just listed the places where people are actually somewhat acclimated to heat to a certain degree. I mean, talk about Arizona and Nevada, who are, I mean, like it's actually unlivable. Like the only air conditioning is the only reason that people live in Phoenix. Like that's it.
well, and I know people can get acclimated to the weather, but look at the population of Florida.
Right.
Look at the age demographics.
Yep. Yep.
Every time the power goes out, they set up cooling centers.
Absolutely.
I've seen reefer trucks set up
Yep.
as
Absolutely.
cooling stations just because some people have not fully acclimated and, big health risks.
Yep. Absolutely.
Um, So where does that leave us when the lights go out? I mean, the livable parts of the country.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I think that that's a really super and so I think was it the EMP Commission or did I pick this up in one of the many books that I've read, either yours or somebody else's? That it would only take three to put the lights out of all of North America.
I theorized it would take 3 based on what I've read. I don't
Okay.
know if that's from the EMP Commission,
Okay.
but that would cover most of the country with the technology I knew they had at the time when I wrote those stories.
Okay.
But I'm hearing about stuff now that's, it's not just they fire a nuke in space, they have, actual weapons that are designed only to the biggest effect is the EMP that are designed to be set off in space to hit
Right.
as hard and wide of an area as they can.
Multiple warheads being launched from the same ICBM and things like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Or, they're already snuck up there in satellites.
Boy, I know that's the thing, man. I just don't think that we've done a good enough job of
Well, you
meet.
remember when North Korea was banging its chest real hard,
Uh-huh.
um, and they launched a satellite the day of the Super Bowl?
Yes. Yes. You're like,
That was very
"What?"
suspicious.
Very
Yeah.
suspicious. Very suspicious. So, all right, let's do this. Let's do this. We talk about getting prepped. We'll transition over to getting prepped. All right. So we think that I would also suppose, and I've said this on the show before. I'll say it to you just to spark the conversation. Okay. I sat in a big collective study a few years ago that basically said the next world war would not be fought for oil; it would be fought for water. That China and Russia's main aquifers are actually going dry, and that a
Hmm.
lot of this could be a ploy to be able to take land that has access to water. Um, and so, that they're playing the oil card to hide what they're really after because Sun Tzu says to do that, right? So in all of that, being said, that they really just want America. They want the water. They want the usable land. They want us to be out of the way. Uh, you know, Nuking the place into oblivion makes it real hard for them to use this place if they're able to take it in the long run. I think that strategically it makes a lot more sense if you want to take something to, for the most part, leave it intact. Right? Bridges don't fall down because of EMPs, and obviously there will be a lot of building loss because of fire and lack of fire suppression and things like that. But a lot of buildings will be they'll just be intact. They just won't have any lights on, So Boyd, help us look through for the next few minutes before we round out the show. I've had you on for an hour and 45 minutes now. I don't want to keep you all night. And folks, I just want to apologize now. Thank you to our Patreon members, and including our friend Boyd here. We're not gonna have a bunker tonight. My voice is done after we have this 2 hour conversation. I need to just go home and cough until my headache puts me to sleep. So I don't know if I've got the Rona or if I'm just got a nasty cold. I managed to go 2 years without catching anything, so I figure I'm due. But I've got my horse dewormer, and I've got my nebulizer, and I've got all kinds of good stuff trying to keep me afloat right now. And I'm still riding 11 miles a day on the bike for Stop Soldier Suicide. So Boyd, talk to us. Give us your checklist. What would you be doing right now if you weren't already a prepper with stuff in place? Or if you can share some of the stuff you are doing right now. Like if that's not going to violate your OPSEC, okay?
Well, the biggest thing for me right now, um, I don't necessarily prepare for the zombie apocalypse or a nuclear war or an EMP.
Right?
I prepare for hard times,
Right.
and you mentioned that earlier in the show.
Yeah.
So that means I've got a financial cushion, and
Mhm.
it's taken me years to get to this point. But if something were to happen to me, my family's set for, I'm not gonna say forever, but they're set.
Right.
Um, they'll be able to the kids can grow up and, do their thing, and my wife will have a comfortable life, not necessarily the way it is right now, but
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Sure.
it's taken a while to get to that point. It's taken me 20 years to get to this point.
Sure.
So financials in order. Food storage. I know this is the biggest thing preppers talk about, but I want to talk about it for a different reason.
Okay.
Um, how much was ground beef 2 years ago a pound?
$2, 250.
Right, right. And now I can get, grass-fed organic Angus steak for the same price I can get ground beef 2 years
Right.
ago versus
Right.
today's prices.
Right.
So, I'm paying over 4 or $5 a pound right now for basic 80/20 ground beef. It's
Right.
it's done. So, having that food put away is more than just peace of mind, it's also an investment.
Right.
If I told you I can save you a third on your groceries a year from now, you're gonna be spending a third less than what you normally would, I think everyone would jump on that. And all you
Yeah.
gotta do is start looking into long-term storage food that you already eat,
Yep.
or different ways of packing and preserving what you already eat. For me, it's canning, but that's how I grew up.
Right.
The next thing, to kinda insulate myself or ourselves is, comfort, convenience, and sanitary items. I'm never gonna be caught without toilet paper. I
Right.
know many people were in the great toilet paper shortage of 2020.
2020.
Um, but I mean, having a little bit extra there prep-wise is fine. Um, security-wise, as long as we have power, I've got cameras facing all the way around, and I've got a, remote motion sensor that covers the areas the cameras can't,
Right.
and that was kind of a hard lesson to learn.
Right.
Since I lived near Flint, we had, a car park at the end of our driveway, and even with the infrared on the cameras, I couldn't make out what they're doing because 'cause they're just that far away. And if my wife hadn't have looked outside and seen that happening, um, lady would have died.
Mm.
So the end of my driveway now has, a wireless, motion sensor that just sends off a buzzer inside the house.
Yeah.
Like, A is driveway, B is the backfield, C is the drainage ditch, D is the big garden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're all little solar powered, they're cheap and easy, and just having that little bit of security helps out, you know.
Yep.
Before I even get to guns, I'm gonna talk about my dog.
There you go.
Get a good dog.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be Cujo, it doesn't have to be a trained canine, but if we're still talking security, get a dog, even if it's a Chihuahua. Those things yell at everything.
That's
They
right.
get up on you're like, "Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that.
Right.
A leaf just fell right there." And you
Right
may
there.
not care that the leaf fell, but the dog's gonna tell you.
That's right. That's right.
So, what we got?
Cash,
I didn't
food,
mention
security,
shelter.
dog.
Yep. Shelter, but that's kinda implied
Yeah.
with but I mean, those are the kind of things I'm doing, and it's not necessarily based on an EMP. Like, where I live, I do a little bit extra, like, in the wintertime, what if my furnace went out or the power went out?
Right.
Well, you can have propane heaters, you can have kerosene heaters, you can have a fireplace, there's a
Yeah.
million different ways to do it that are very region specific.
Yeah.
Like, for the first time in a long time, my folks in Texas were like, we should have kept that kerosene heater because when's the last time it really got cold and snowy and icy in Texas? Well, for 2 years it has.
2 years in 2 years in a row now. Yeah.
So,
No,
that's the kind of stuff I look at prepping wise for me and my family.
I think that's wise stuff, and I would say this, as far as food goes, I mean, I love the fact that we're still eating chickens we raised last summer. We're still eating beef we bought last fall. We are not paying, we're still eating a pig that we butchered last fall or just after Thanksgiving. You know, we're not paying the crazy food prices today that we're eating our preps, and then we're looking for new ways to prep, forward, right? I mean, you can't leave a pig in the freezer. I guess I could can some pork and then it would be, shelf stable for a good long time. But I mean, you're not going to leave a pig in the freezer for more than about a year. Its fat goes rancid. It's not it's edible, but it ain't gonna be good.
Right.
That kind of thing. Beef, you can get 2 or 3 years out of. Lean wild game. We've definitely eaten years later that we found a chunk of elk at the bottom of the freezer, or whatever. And we're like, ooh, let's put it in the pressure cooker. Tacos.
Yep.
I guess we're making tacos. Lots of spices and shred it. But no, I absolutely 100% agree on all of that checklist. I mean, even if, so get your finances in order. And I think part of getting your finances in order, like if you want to prepare for something, I think real notable economists are saying that the recession or depression is January. Like we're not even feeling it yet. Like we are just feeling the inflation from the Trump dollars. I'm not bashing the T-man. Everybody don't freak out on me, okay? But I mean, he wrote some stimulus checks too before he came out. We're feeling the inflation from that. We haven't even touched the inflation from the B-man yet. So they're saying that you better have your poop in a group by January financially. That's what you got. And, so do you have, when you say having your finances in order, I definitely come back and reiterate, like, make sure you got some hedges against inflation, and then that springboards you into food. Like, you should be buying food now. You should be buying food now.
If you've got enough money, you can find whatever you need.
Sure.
Well, I mean, let's just be honest.
Right.
But if you really want to see how volatile the market is, look at the silver prices right now.
Right.
Have you looked lately?
Yes. Tell them about it. Tell them about it.
So I buy silver rounds, and for a long time I was getting them for $18 to $21, and it kind of fluctuated up and down, but that was kind of the average.
Right.
And over the last year and a half, they've gone from 26 to 28 to $31.
Yep.
Now I'm not talking spot prices. I'm talking the coin prices.
Right.
Right now they're at $31.
Yep.
So I've essentially just gained $6 per coin in the last month.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how much it's fluctuated.
Yep.
So, I don't have a ton of precious metals. It's just something I've been collecting off and on, kind of a curiosity,
right,
since I was a kid. But I watch the prices, because I bought from a couple different places before. I get the newsletters, and I see the fluctuations.
Right. Absolutely.
So you want to see how volatile the market is, watch that, because I don't see myself buying any until things stabilize, because it's really gone up.
No, I totally agree. I've froze my precious metals purchasing because it's just been insane. And I also think I do ascribe to the theory that there will be a precious metals crash. It'll be a manufactured crash before the recession hits. It'll give the wealthy people the opportunity to take their money out of paper and put it into something tangible. They'll manufacture that for the elite. So the day you see silver prices crash hard, I buy it.
Buy
it. Buy, baby, buy. Like, I mean, like, I don't want to counsel you to do anything crazy, but I mean, like, whatever I have left in my savings will turn into silver on that day.
Right. I mean, you got an extra $20, $25.
Yeah. There you go.
Why not?
Why not?
It's not going to ever be worthless like the paper currency we now use could be.
Correct. Security, I love the camera system. I think assuming that we still have electricity, I mean, even a Ring doorbell can change your life. I mean, with home invasions, and you want to talk about putting up for hard times. Hard times might just be one afternoon when a jackwagon wants to kick your door in and take your stuff. We've got a sweet old man. Talk about silver and gold and those kinds of things. We got a sweet old man here in town. He's got a pack of Cocker Spaniels, and he leaves the little slidey window open in the back of his little micro truck, and they'll climb out. And all of them, when he has breakfast, he eats at the same breakfast place every day. They will all pile onto his truck, and they just sit out on top of his truck and in the bed of the truck. It's hysterical. He rolls through Home Depot every single day. You'll see Mr. Donnie rocking through Home Depot. He's got 4 dogs on the flatbed truck. He might be in there to get 2 screws. He's got a flatbed and he's rolling through the hand truck. The guy's awesome. He's a pretty wealthy dude. And he got home invaded about a year ago, and they came in, they kicked in his door, and he's an old man. He lives by himself, and he wasn't able to get to his weapon fast enough, and they beat him down hard, and they busted up his face, and he had his jaw pinned for a good long time. They stole a bunch of gold and silver from him, some firearms. And I think the only reason they caught those guys was because he had some cameras up. And I think he had an alarm system in place that he was able to call for help without having to dial the phone. Like, you should have panic buttons in a handful of places. Like my system, there are panic buttons throughout the house, and on my phone. Like, I could panic my house right now from my phone, if I got some kind of code from the pretty blonde lady, right? That would be really, it's really important to do. So, and the dog plays a role in that. Now, his Cocker Spaniels didn't do him a lot of good. And my Brittany probably won't do me a lot of good in the security world. I need to get with Meg, start talking about getting him Belgian. That needs to happen. Meg, I'm shopping. Anyway. And do
you have a duress phrase with your wife?
Do we have a what?
Like a duress phrase?
Yes.
Like, if she says one thing, you absolutely know
yes,
something's wrong. Good.
Yes, we do.
I was going to say, because a lot of people haven't even thought of that.
Yep. And we have an everything's okay phrase, because let's face it, if you're in the bedroom and someone kicks open the door and you go to work and you take your rifle down the hallway and you go to work and bang, 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 right? If you try to walk back in that bedroom, my friend Clint Smith says she's going to have both motors on that General Electric minigun are going to be spinning at full RPMs, and she's going to be ready to light you up. You better scream butterfly, or something, to let her know that everything's okay. The bad guy's down. Please do not aerate my lung holes, with your weapon, right? So duress statement and all clear statement,
Clear. Yep.
And all clear ain't it. Okay. In fact, all clear, that's not mine, so I can share this. All clear is a really great distress signal. Because if a bad guy's trying to walk you down a hallway because you lost the fight, you can say all clear, everything's all clear, and she knows to spin up the motors on the General Electric minigun, right? So yeah, I mean, that's a great, thank you for bringing that up, because most people, I have a phrase with both my wife and my son that if they're being held by someone, if I say it, they both go limp and drop to the ground. So, and that's an important thing to have, because you want to clear the target as best you can.
Right. Well, and, I've had that talk with the whole family, with my 6-year-old even. Like, we've got kind of a, hidden access to part of our attic that you're not going to ever find it unless you know it's there.
Right.
It's literally part of a wall, and it doesn't just swing open.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
They know if something happens and they can't go out the back door, that they're to hide themselves and, make sure they're secure and quiet and out of the way.
Yeah. Jello. We're having Jello for dinner. Let's go, everybody. Right. Jello for dinner. Whatever, whatever it is that you got to say that means get in the wall.
We're voting for Joe Biden again.
We're voting. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something tells me "Let's go, Brandon" is not your code word for get in the wall. Right. But no, I mean, I think it's really, really, really important to recognize these things. So protect yourself against inflation. Guard against it. It is coming, you guys. Like, there is listen. If we don't have World War III, all right. Double tap now, Rich. Nice, Marsh. I like it. Marsh's statement is double tap now. And so, but I mean, if we don't have World War III, let's just say the lights don't go off, no EMP, we negotiate a ceasefire, whatever it is, the recession's still coming in January. Like that's on the way. And the fact that OPEC, see, most people don't like to talk about the fact that OPEC had a deal with us that we would always protect them if they always only took the dollar for oil transactions. I mean, there's probably a reason why 9 of the 10 9/11 hijackers were Saudi and we went into Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there, folks. So for OPEC, now have you confirmed? Because I know last week they stopped taking Biden's calls. OPEC no longer saw our emissaries. Have you confirmed that they are taking?
Bloomberg is asking the question as of 2 days ago, can Saudi Arabia use Chinese yuan for oil? And I heard this from one of the military guys I know even before the articles came out.
Okay.
And it doesn't sound like it's just necessarily China.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you know what I mean? I mean, right now, 3 days ago, Wall Street Journal, Saudi Arabia considering accepting the yuan instead of the dollar. The Hill. So, I mean,
The Hill's pretty
if they
reputable.
start trading with different currency than the dollar,
We're smoked.
that itself
We are
is going to
we are
Right.
smoked, you guys. Our economy can only, and this is not me being a fatalist. I'm not speaking death. This is the realism of economics. If our dollar becomes only paper, because it's not gold, it's not silver. If we lose oil, our economy can only fail, and fail hard. That could actually start a World War III. That could actually start a World War III. So guard against inflation. Stack calories to the rafters. In fact, I'm really on the fence. I got to get the pretty blonde lady involved on board. I want to drop $3,000 today on a harvest right and start freeze drying food. Like because every meal we make has leftovers. And half of the time we don't get them eaten before they go bad because we're Americans.
Now,
we're good Americans.
Can I play devil's advocate, even though I agree with you?
Yeah.
Would you be further ahead of the game if you bought $3,000 worth of freeze-dried food right now instead of the harvest rate?
Right now.
Now that's
yes.
the reason I'm asking the question is because you know what you're producing and growing yourself already. So that would make your cost for the food after the equipment zero. But if you're having, you know what I mean? That's one of those things that I've seen debated. I want to get a freeze dryer for the same reason.
Yeah.
But realistically, would I be further ahead at this point?
Right.
I think I would have, and it's a personally tailored question to everyone's individual scenario.
That's a really good point. I think it's an important question. Man, I don't know. So I hate to do this. I hate to end on this note because I think we're on a really good track, but I did want to cut us off at 2 hours and I'm getting a chaplain call out. I guess we might have a local officer hurt. So Boyd, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Thanks for talking current events, getting to some prepper strategy. Dude, you are always invited. If there's something breaking in the news that you're like, man, I just want to talk about this with somebody, like, man, just let us know on Friday night. Jump in. You are always welcome to hang out with us. I feel like we keep calling you. We're gonna have to start paying you. And since Phil and I don't get paid, it's gonna be tough. I'm good. But man, we appreciate you. I love your perspective. I don't know if you saw me post it. So I'm gonna stick it up again just so you see it. But Marsh posted, I love his outlook, ! So just make sure that you get the credit where credit is due. I want to make sure we say thank you to our Patreons, our patrons, I should say. You guys are the best. Hey, your survival bracelets are made, but I think the real Phil may have changed the Patreon login, so I could not get your addresses. So they're made, they're packaged, they're ready to rock and roll. We got that cool survival stuff with all the goodies in it, the fishing line and all the flammable tinder and the thread and all that stuff. So a little thank you for our patrons. And there's one patron that might be in the room right now. We still don't have an address on. I understand there's OPSEC stuff, but we would like to start sending you gifts. So anyway, Boyd, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Give our love to your family. Thank them for letting us steal you, and we pray that your kiddos bounce back from their ear infections quickly.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
All right, so last word, giving it to you. We're going to say goodbye. What's the number one thing people need to do when they wake up tomorrow morning for prepping? Go.
Check their phone and make sure an EMP didn't go off.
That's
Sorry.
too easy, man. That's too easy. That's too easy. I'm gonna say buy food. So, all right, you guys.
Yep.
Hey, we love you. Get prepped.